We are going to quickly look at a dissertation, the essential parts of a dissertation. We're going to be looking at how to review literature when writing your dissertation. We're also going to be looking at the difference between research methods and research methodology. We'll also be looking at some pitfalls in writing or reviewing your literature. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Blessing Ame, and I wrote my own dissertation in 2019. So I know a trick or two about dissertation. I'm currently working on my PhD thesis, my doctoral thesis. So I'm constantly researching. So guys, without much waste of our time, let's look at a step-by-step guide to conducting your literature review. The first thing to do is to define the scope of your review. Define the scope of your literature. So before you start reviewing your literature, you want to define what you're reviewing. Do you want to just review the conclusions or the research method analysis, or do you want to review the ethical issues in that particular literature? Also, how that literature concern what you're doing. So before you even start reviewing literature, you want to check what context or what scope reviewing that literature. Now, the next thing you want to do is, what specific aspect topic are you focusing on? So if you're reviewing literature, are you focusing on, like I said, are you focusing on research methods? Are you focusing on the ethical issues? Focusing on the arguments and the questions? Are you focusing on the peer-reviewed reviews of the peers? So you need to check what you're reviewing. So now we said, what time frame or geographic location does your review cover? We've said this yesterday. You want to look for sources that are a bit more current. You don't want to be going about looking for old sources. So try to look for current sources. Now, if you're reviewing the law in a particular jurisdiction, for instance, I just use the law as an example. If you're reviewing the law in United Kingdom, you wouldn't go and start digging all the literature from United States, except you're doing a comparative study. So guys, the first thing you want to do to make your literature review easy for you is you need to define the scope. Don't just review. It's not just about reading literature and summarizing it. It's about reading somebody's work that concerns your own work. So that thing you're reading, you're reviewing, does it answer any of your research questions? Does it have anything to do with your research objectives? That's how to know you're on the right track. So guys, we said you need to check for geographic location and what the review covers. So for example, if your dissertation is on the effects of social media and mental health, you must on literature published in the last 10 years and in specific countries. So guys, with this already, search for relevant literature. You need to use Google Scholar. So if you go onto your Google tab, you need to type Google Scholar into your... So Google Scholar would narrow down what you're looking for. We also said you can use JSTOR. JSTOR is spelled JSTOR, or PubMed. PubMed are known for peer-reviewed articles, books, and conference papers. So from PubMed, find more recent papers for your work. Now, also, you can use Boolean operators. Now, there's so much artificial intelligence. Don't be afraid to use ChatGPT or OpenAI. So I'm not saying you should copy directly from ChatGPT. Enter prompts such as the most current literature on XYZ topic. And ChatGPT and OpenAI, they would bring this all out for you. Again, you can even try Canva. Enter these commands into your Canva and they will bring out this literature. Or if you want to evaluate your literature, you know it's not every article that is relevant to your studies. We already said this. So you need to check, is your source up to date? Does it address goofy aim? I think I have an idea what goofy means, but I don't know what goofy ass means. I'm just speaking about literature. So Leighton Jang plays goofy stream. Anyways, I'm not goofy. I'm just trying to help, and I'm just trying to get my 4,000 watch hours. So I don't know what you're talking about. Now, I said if you're reviewing your literature, don't just take every book and every journal you see and put. What is goofy about that? I'm just saying you need to narrow down your literature. Don't just go about doing things blindly. Now, I'm not going to be reading these comments because they throw me off balance and I wouldn't know what I'm saying anymore. So I'm not going to read that comment anymore. So now you want to evaluate and select your sources. Not every article or book, we already said this. So as you review your sources, you need to ensure that directly aligned with your research objectives. Guys, the simple trick to this is, in fact, how do you come up with your research objectives? Make sure that your research objectives answers the questions you're asking in your research questions. So your research question number 1 is spell a boy. Your research objective number 1 should be, this is how to spell a boy. So if your research question number is rice, your research objectives will be how to cook rice. So guys, this person has thrown me off balance. I'm going to go for a quick break and I'm going to come back for us to continue. That's why I don't like readings like this. So I'll go and I'll come back. Oh, Lina, thank you so much. Okay, I'll continue. I just felt a bit, put off. That's why I wanted to run away. Just jump to the exciting part. How to avoid plagiarism in a literature review. Now, most of us already know plagiarism is a serious offense. So if you want to avoid plagiarism, properly cite all your sources. You already know this. Now, sources cannot be too much. For every source you use, make sure you cite it. This gives you more word count. Now, you need to paraphrase people's work when you're using it. So if you find something you like, don't just copy it and paste it there. Because if you don't, thank you so much, Lavina. So you need to paraphrase. Don't just copy people's work and put on your work. So if you just copy and paste and you don't reference it appropriately, you might be done for misconduct. So try to paraphrase. So when you paraphrase other people's work, you can take people's work and put it on in your own AI or chat GPT, and this would help you paraphrase. Then you make it your own work. But you can also now put that you got this idea from XYZ. Use plagiarism checker. Grammarly is free. So try to use your Grammarly. Turnitin is also free. Check for your plagiarism with Grammarly and Turnitin. And we also said you need to organize your literature. Once you have selected the most relevant studies, you need to organize them. Organize them by themes, organize them by trends, or chronologically. This helps in understanding the evolution of the research. Guys, don't be afraid to use things in your literature review. When you ate a last cooked ass turkey. I said I was not going to read these comments. Sorry guys, I keep getting distracted anymore. Now that you have gathered and organized your sources, it is time to write a review. Now let's look at how to write a literature review step by step. Number 1, you want to introduce your so your literature review is usually chapter 3 or chapter 4 or chapter 2, wherever you want to put it. So number 1, provide context. Give them a little background. So don't just start reviewing people's journal. You need to explain to them, these are the journals to be reviewing. This is why I'm going to be reviewing this journal. And this is how this journal or article or book concerns my research. I'm going to say what I just said again. So you need to provide context. You need to explain the importance of the topic. You need to show that the journals you are reviewing have something to do. Okay, I'm not rich. I'm just a broke student. I'm currently doing my PhD thesis here in Aberdeen. Thank you, Lavina, for staying. See you next time. Now, guys, I'll start again. We said how to write your literature review section step by step. Number 1, provide context. Explain why you are reviewing that literature. Explain the importance of the topic and define the scope of the review. The second thing you want to do, discuss the literature in sections. We already said don't be afraid to use subheadings. Make sure you use subheadings. Now discuss your literature by theme or by methodology. So if you are discussing a literature, you need to tell us why you're discussing it. If you're discussing a literature because you think its methods were not good, that's okay. You can also tell us you're discussing a literature because there are ethical issues involved. Or them you're discussing or analyzing or critically examining this literature because it correlates or goes with what you are doing. So now, guys, there are just 3 parts to your review section: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. We said number 1, provide context, the importance of the topic, and the scope of the review. Number 2, discuss the literature in sections, organized by themes or by method. Conclusion, summarize your key findings and explain how your research will build on existing knowledge. Now, tips for writing a strong literature review. So guys, I'm going to go on this break and I'll come back and we'll now look at literature properly. Thank you so much for joining my live.